Hello, this is Peter Lin-Marcus, who is running for Boston City Council District 2. We're here to ask you two questions on Boston Public Schools. So the first question is, what do you believe is the current state of the Boston Public Schools? A, what grade would you give it now? And B, what grade would you give them when Marty Walsh started 4 years ago?
Yes, the grade I would give it right now is a C. The grade when the Mayor Walsh took office 4 years ago, C minus or a D. And the reason that I'm giving it those grades is I'm very concerned about the graduation rate. The graduation rate is, I believe, in the 70s right now, which is a significant improvement from where it was in the 60s previously. There's still significant room for improvement. If you're among the students who are not grading, or if you're from the families, you actually wouldn't be giving a C. You'd probably be giving the schools an F. And I'm concerned and a lot of people, a lot of students and their families would be giving it an A or B if they're doing well in the school, and an F if the schools are not, if the schools are failing the students, which it is for too many students. And I think we need to look beyond just an individual, but beyond an overall grade, to look at the to look at the individual grades, and it should be an A for everybody. And I want to guarantee that all students graduate as a way to help make sure it gets there.
All right, thank you. So the second question is, what specifically are you going to do to improve them? A, how many schools are you going to visit? B, what program would you add or subtract? And C, how much more money, if any, do you think the schools need?
Yes. Uh, those are all very good questions. Not easy to answer. I mean, I've visited several schools already. I would love to. I would love to visit many. I would love to visit many more schools. I would aim to do at least 10 to 30 realistically. I'd love to say I would, and I do promise I want to visit every school, but I can't promise over a year's time. But over the next few years, I would like to at least to make sure I can visit every school. Uh, the I would want to start, before I talk about programs. I would want to start with a goal that we can get everybody to agree on, from people on the city council and the mayor's office to parents to students, that every student graduates from the public schools. We have an innovation economy. We have an economy where even factory workers, they have to understand statistics because of the role of quality improvement in manufacturing. I think we need to, and I think that goal can motivate students, people in the community, parents, and people in business. It can motivate everyone to work together to make it happen. I think that can also force the city, force the school department to do everything that's been proven to work to do it. Funding for smaller classes. I believe, I've seen a cutoff point that for students who are challenged, 14 and smaller classes make a huge difference. I understand that requires more educators and probably more school buildings as well. I think that's a small price for making sure that all students graduate. I would like to I would like to see I would like to see investment in everything that's been proven to work. Ethnic studies programs, students that in Tucson, students who were not in an ethnic studies program graduated at a 47% rate. Students in the ethnic studies program, mostly Latino, mostly Mexican American, graduated at 93%, with 85% going on to college. That's been proven to work. I mentioned about smaller classes, effective early childhood education, effective bilingual or English language learner programs. That's been proven to work. And I think, of course, schools are affected by what happens outside the classroom as well. I think along with that, another thing I want Boston guarantee is that an end to youth violence, that no young person dies violently. Boston actually achieved that some late 90s, early 2000s for about a 5-year period with something called the Boston Miracle. That combination of guaranteed access to jobs with access to mentors, people, increased number of outreach workers to the street. Boston had up to 200 around that time. I would like to see that. Those are things outside the school that affect and improve performance in the classroom. They also improve life, of course, in Boston as a whole. But I mean, but they do improve performance in the classroom. So we should be looking at things outside which improve performance in a classroom to help to help make that happen, I would like to see the funding to support parents and support families who are struggling. Families that are struggling, you end up, not surprisingly, with students that are struggling. I mean, there's, I believe, 4,000 students who are homeless right now. We talk about being ready to learn. I would say that's a guaranteed. That's people who are guaranteed not to be ready to learn unless they have extraordinary support. So I'd like to make sure the support is there. I'd like to see the funding be present so that we can guarantee that no student is homeless. And I think if we're guaranteeing all students graduate, that's a piece of it. I also want to see guaranteed access to treatment for trauma. Students who suffer trauma, whether it's violence themselves, someone close to them being affected by violence, that affects their readiness to learn even if they were ready to learn before. And that's something that can't be ignored. And I understand that not every educator is equipped to be, nor should they necessarily be equipped by themselves to be a counselor. I mean, although they can do their part by being empathetic, but the school should be collaborating with people who are, making sure that the access is guaranteed and there's no hassle access when it's needed, so that students will be ready to learn and be supported in the process. And I mean, I would like there to be guaranteed. I think with the goal, I would like there to be guaranteed funding for all these services. I wouldn't be surprised if everything I'm talking about we're talking about possibly doubling the funding for the schools if we take all that together. I'm fine with that. I'd be willing to, of course. I mean, and I know money doesn't grow on trees. But number one, that's a small price to pay. I think Boston is. I'm going to put some perspective here. Boston's one of the wealthiest cities in the wealthiest country in the world. The resources are there. We may need to be willing to have courage and be creative in finding ways to do it. But I mean, I would be fine with finding revenue. For example, a tax on securities transactions. Boston is a major financial center. A tax on higher income people. Higher income people, not only are they often educated themselves, they almost, although some of them may have worked hard and not been successful, but they almost always depend on people who work for them, who are educated, who have great skills to help them achieve it. Educated workers at all levels is key. So that's a small price for them to pay back what they were able to benefit from, and more importantly, to make sure that their prosperity continues by having an educated workforce. And most importantly, I think with a clear, I think. I mean, a lot of times. I think people have the same goals, but the goal isn't clearly stated. It isn't articulated in a way to get people to support it. So I think, I mean, practically everybody says they want to see better public schools, but that's not as motivating. When I've done organizing in the past, I found that having a clear goal, like, let's make sure our street is safe. Let's make sure people are not afraid on our street. Then that motivates a lot more people. I think having a goal like guaranteeing that every student graduates and succeeds will be motivating, and making sure there's mechanisms to do that. I would like to put one more budgetary mechanism to do that. I mean, IBM, and other companies around the start of the quality movement 50 years ago came up with a measure called the cost of poor quality. And for IBM, that would be the cost of what the computers are breaking down, the cost of them losing sales if people don't see it as reliable, the cost of them sending someone to fix it, the cost of them having to lower prices if they're not seen as a quality provider. I would like to see the cost of poor quality in the Boston budget, and cost of poor quality in the education would be costs of things like the cost of extra tutoring if students don't learn the first time. The cost of students not finishing school and how that affects tax revenues, that's at least 6 figures per person who doesn't graduate. And I think with that would be a mechanism to make sure we have the right revenue, right funding, and the right support and culture to make sure that education works for everybody. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, this is Peter Lin-Marcus, who is running for Boston City Council District 2.